Welcome to Sunrise, live from Westminster on Friday, the 5th of June, as Gordon Brown fights for his political survival. He's been dealt a devastating blow with the resignation of the Work and Pensions Secretary, James Purnell. He, in fact, is the third Cabinet Minister to quit in just 3 days. Mr Purnell says Gordon Brown should step aside now to give Labour a better chance of beating the Conservatives at the next election. Here's our political correspondent, Glenn O'Glasser.
Just moments after a late-night visit from Peter Mandelson, who'd been in and out of Downing Street all day, Gordon Brown learnt of the most damaging cabinet resignation so far. James Purnell's star was rising. Unlike Jackie Smith and Hazel Blears, he was not facing the sack, so his resignation came as a bolt from the blue. And, perhaps symbolically, the lights at number 10 went out. His resignation letter to the Prime Minister was devastating. He wrote,
"I now believe your continued leadership makes a Conservative victory more, not less likely. I'm therefore calling on you to stand aside to give our party a fighting chance of winning. As such, I'm resigning from government. The party was here long before us, and we want it to be here long after we have gone. We must do the right thing by it. I'm not seeking the leadership, nor acting with anyone else. My actions are my own considered view, nothing more. If the consensus is that you should continue, then I will support the government loyally from the backbenches. But I do believe that this question now needs to be put."
In the wake of James Purnell's resignation, senior Labour MPs were finally, publicly, calling for Mr Brown to go.
I hope that Gordon Brown is treated with the utmost respect. He's been an excellent Chancellor. He has been a very great policymaker as Prime Minister, but perhaps not an effective communicator. And I think it's now time to look for the future and look to an election victory for Labour, which now becomes a distinct possibility under new dynamic leadership.
But ministers have been defending Mr Brown.
I support Gordon Brown. I'm a member of the government, so I support Gordon Brown. And I think that we have to be one team. We have to pull together as one team, support Gordon Brown as leader, and get ourselves out of this period of difficulty.
Crucially, so-called Blairite ministers like Foreign Secretary David Miliband and Defence Secretary John Hutton, seen as potential alternative leaders, announced their support for Mr Brown, a sense of the cabinet circling the wagons. But it took them nearly 2 hours. They are still braced for terrible results in yesterday's European and local council elections, while the Conservatives, well, they're just itching for a general election.
I think this is the moment when Gordon Brown needs to go to the palace and ask the Queen for a general election. This is, at the moment, an internal discussion about the leadership of the Labour Party, and it's clear the Cabinet have no confidence in Gordon Brown's leadership. But in the end, the question about who leads the country must be one for the public, and the only way to involve the public is through a general election.
Do you want to ask a question?
Could former Home Secretary Charles Clarke be a stalking horse candidate?
I've got no comment to make on any of these matters.
This may not yet be politically fatal for Gordon Brown, but he now has to absorb the shock of bad election results and carry out an effective cabinet reshuffle. What he does about Alistair Darling, his Chancellor, will be crucial. Does Mr Brown have the political strength and authority left to carry out the reshuffle he would like? Glenn O'Glasser, Sky News, Westminster.
Well, the breaking news in the last couple of minutes is that reshuffle that Glenn just mentioned will happen today, we understand. Obviously, it's something that the Prime Minister hopes will shore up his support and reassert his authority. As for the other party leaders, we'll hear from David Cameron in a minute, but this is what the Lib Dem leader, Nick Clegg, had to say.
Nick, if I can just start off by asking you, results look good for you at the moment. Bristol's gone your way?
Yeah, it's early days, of course. Only first results have come in, but I'm absolutely delighted.